Have you ever felt, well, stuck? Like there's some kind of invisible force that just keeps you from jumping on new ideas or really adapting to change. Well, the text we're digging into today argues that this force actually has a name, and it might just be the biggest thing holding you back. So, let's get into it.
Okay, so first, let's take a quick trip back to high school physics. We all kind of know what inertia is, right? Just picture a car slamming on its brakes. It doesn't just stop on a dime, it skids forward for a bit. That's its inertia, its tendency to just keep doing what it was already doing. It's a basic law of how the physical world works. Now here's where it gets really interesting. The author of this piece makes a fascinating leap. What if that physical law has a direct parallel inside our own heads? Could our thoughts, could our minds have their own kind of inertia? And the answer, according to the text we're looking at, is a resounding yes, absolutely. And he gives this phenomenon a specific name: mental inertia. This is the core idea we're going to unpack. So what exactly is it? Well, just like that car wants to keep moving, our mind wants to keep thinking along the same well-worn paths. It instinctively resists new information, it pushes back against different points of view, and it fights to stay in its cozy, familiar state. It's almost like our brain's default setting is don't change a thing. Now you might be thinking, okay, so what? I'm a little set in my ways. But according to our source, this isn't just about being a bit stubborn. Oh no, the author gives a really serious warning here. This is presented as a major threat. I mean, just look at the language here. It's incredibly strong. The author isn't just saying mental inertia makes you unhappy. They're calling it a stumbling block to civilization, a killer of the new era. The stakes, from this point of view, could not possibly be higher. And this slide really lays out the choice the author presents. It's a clear fork in the road. On one side, you've got adapting to change. That's the progressive force, the path that leads to progress and, well, survival. And on the other side, you've got resisting change. That's the backward force, fueled by inertia, which the author says leads to bitterness and ultimately to being, and this is their word, eliminated by the times. Okay, so to back this big idea up, the author doesn't just stick with theories. Nope, they point to several major, really turbulent moments of change in recent Chinese history as proof. Let's take a look at these case studies.
So first up, we're talking about the massive shift in China during the 1980s. This is when Deng Xiaoping brought in market reforms, completely moving away from that old common prosperity model, where, as they say, everyone ate from one big pot.
And the author says the result was crystal clear. The people who were able to break their mental inertia, who adapted to this brand new market economy, they thrived. But the folks who were, in the author's words, shackled to that old way of thinking, they got left behind, and they ended up bitter and resentful watching others get ahead. All right, the next case study the author brings up is the period right after the student-led protests of 1999. The author looks at the very different paths people who were involved took in the years that followed. According to this text, a lot of the students pretty quickly pivoted. They shifted their thinking and they jumped into new fields, business, tech. But others whose thinking had, and this is a great word, ossified, like it had hardened into bone, they just stayed stuck in that ideological struggle for years. And in the author's view, they became totally irrelevant as the world just kept moving on without them. And for the last historical example, the author brings up the period after the government's official ban on the Falun Gong spiritual practice in China. Wow, what a metaphor, right? The author argues that once the fundamental situation had changed, once the root has been shaken, clinging to the old way was totally pointless. It was like trying to hatch a chick from an egg that's already broken. The whole point is that inertia can trick you into holding on long after the real opportunity is gone. But look, these big historical examples are really just the setup. The author's main point is that this isn't about the past. This is about the decisions we are all making right now. This is where we see how this idea of mental inertia might be affecting our careers, our relationships, and our own personal growth today.
So take modern values. The author presents something like rising divorce rates, not as a sign of moral decay, but as a sign of progress, where people actually have more freedom to leave bad situations. From this point of view, the people who complain that the world isn't what it used to be are really just victims of their own mental inertia, totally unable to adapt to new ways of living.
And the author just rattles off this list of modern-day examples. It's everything from being nostalgic for the past to just plain inefficient ways of working. And think about that point on homeownership. For so long, buying a house was the goal, no questions asked. But the author suggests that in today's world of remote work and career changes, the mental inertia of that old idea might actually be limiting your freedom, while renting could offer more flexibility. It's all about questioning the default path.
So all of this is building up to the author's final, really urgent conclusion. It's a powerful warning, and it's a direct call to action for anyone out there who feels like they're spinning their wheels in their career or their personal life.
This is the key metaphor for the whole thing. The new era, with its new technologies, new social norms, new ways of living, that's the new wine. But if you try to pour all of that into an old way of thinking, the old wineskin, it just isn't going to work. The old structure can't handle the new reality. You need a new mind for a new time. So here's the bottom line, the crucial diagnosis from the author. Your struggles and your distress aren't being caused by the world changing around you. No, they're being caused by your own internal resistance to that change. It's your own inertia, your own tendency toward laziness, your own clinging to an old version of yourself that's creating the friction and holding you back.
So, what do you do about it? Well, the author lays out a pretty clear 3-step path to break free. Number 1, you have to actively work to reduce your mental inertia. Number 2, you've got to practice adapting quickly to change, not fighting it every step of the way. And number 3, and this is the really deep one, you have to learn to let go of the self, to abandon your personal attachments to how things were or how you think they should be.
And that's where this text leaves us, with a really powerful question we have to ask ourselves. In a world that is changing faster than ever, is your mindset acting as an engine, pushing you forward, or is it an anchor, holding you back? According to this author, the answer to that question could literally determine your entire future.